Welcome to the Pondcast, everyone. We got the pack back together for today's Battle Mightyena.
Who let the dogs out?
Who.
For all you newcomers, our exciting Battle at the Pond series is where we train the same Pokemon in secret and reveal our strategies live. Our goal is to inspire out-of-the-box thinking and show the boundless possibilities of Pokemon training. It's all about embracing creativity and showing that there's no one way to train a Pokemon. Let's dive into it. Mightyena is our Gen 3 Dark-type Pokemon. Its abilities are Intimidate, where upon coming into battle, it will drop the opponent's attack stat by 1 stage. Quick Feet, where its speed is increased by 50% when it has a status. And its hidden ability is Moxie, where its attack is raised by 1 stage when the Pokemon knocks out another Pokemon. It is a Dark-type Pokemon, taking 2 times damage from Bug, Fairy, and Fighting, half damage from Ghost and Dark types, and takes no damage from Psychic types. Its base stat is 420, and its hit points are 70 with an attack of 90, defense of 70, special attack of 60, special defense of 60, and a speed of 70.
So let me introduce you guys to Fluffy. I've given Fluffy the Terra type normal. Ability is Moxie. Item is Assault Vest. Right, so the moves I gave it are Foul Play, Body Slam, Fire Fang, and Psychic Fangs. EV spreads are Attack 152, Defense 125, and Special Defense 125, and I've given it the Adamant Nature.
I think it's interesting because there's a lot of different biting moves that Mightyena can use to get some coverage. So it's always interesting to see like what biting moves people choose because they all have viability in different ways.
I think that the build is pretty cool. I do like that swagger and Psychic Fangs on it. I do think that I don't know. Is it premature for me to say that I think I might be the only one without a Fangs move, a bite move, on a Pokemon that's oh so evidently wanting to learn bite moves. So yeah, the Fire Fang Psychic Fang combo, really effective as well. So we'll see. But yeah, I think it's a really cool build.
Yeah, I like the coverage move that Chase came out with it for his Mightyena.
Well, I don't know much about Mightyena for a start, but obviously its defense maybe is good. Obviously it is good, of course. I'm trying to image it in my head, as you know.
Okay, what really struck out to me was the Terra typing of normal. I was definitely not expecting that at all. It's weak against fighting type moves, so like I wasn't expecting like a Terra type normal. But then like when you think about it, it's like, you know what? You know, having that Terra typing of normal, you're getting that stat boost with the body slam, and then you're also technically losing another weakness, in this case, Fairy and Bug. That was definitely out of left field for me. I liked it. And then just having the Fang moves, I really think you can't go wrong with like Psychic Fangs in general either. Like definitely, barrier breaker shenanigans.
Kind of building on where Guren was already going with that. Psychic Fangs is already a channel favorite. We've mentioned in a lot of our builds. The ability to break down barriers is amazing. The fact that it's a coverage move against fighting types in this very specific situation is another huge plus for it. And I see you also went with the Fire Fang to just kind of cover your bases on any obvious threats that the opponent can pull off. The mon already has very decent defenses as it is, so I totally understand why you were trying to go very all-out aggression and then just kind of bolster the existing defenses to a better place with the Assault Vest. All around, I think it's a very good build, and it kind of reminds me of a more careful approach to what I did coming up later.
I definitely like the fact that you definitely went for the coverage moves for your build, and with the Assault Vest, you're kind of hedging your bets on some of those bug type attacks that tend to be special attack as well. So definitely I do see where you're going with, and I kind of like the fact that you went and bolstered that as well, and then preventing your opponent from hiding behind any of the screens or barriers with the Psychic Fangs. Choice.
All right, so my Mightyena is named WLTDO for Who Let the Dogs Out.
Okay.
Yeah, he has the moves Crunch, Play Rough, Psychic Fangs, and Terra Blast with the Terra type Steel. The reason I picked Steel is because Mightyena is weak to Fairy types, and that's scary. So I figure he can deal with fighting types a little bit with Psychic Fangs, but he cannot deal with fairy types without Terra Blast. For ability, I was deciding between Intimidate and Moxie, but I picked Moxie because there's a lot of Pokemon right now with Defiant, and that's really annoying. So I was like, Moxie makes more sense. And I gave it an Assault Vest, shocker, because it just kind of needs it, and it has all attacking moves anyways. So for stats, I gave it all HP and attack with a bonus in attack. But I decided for the negative, I decided to go with a Brave Nature and have the negative actually be for speed, because I think that for Mightyena to work, it needs a really good stat. So I feel like you need to pair it with a Trick Room team and then turn that bad speed upside down. For the last 4, I put it in Special Defense. And yeah, that's my Mightyena. Woof, woof, woof.
I thought it was awesome. The Terra Steel and Terra Blast in order to do the fairy coverage was actually, great combination. It's hard to get something to cover fairy in the current meta, and I love the fact that you can do that with the Terra phenomenon with a Pokemon that would otherwise bait them to use those type of Pokemon against it. So using Mightyena where they're going to want to use that fairy type, especially over, knowing it has Psychic Fangs to cover against fighting, and then all of a sudden you Terra and just annihilate it with a powerful Terra Blast is absolutely awesome. Moxie is also, I love that ability, and it very much fits the dark, kind of intimidating sort of thing that the Mightyena design really goes for. I always expect great competitive builds from Cayla, and she doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, I like the combination of Terra Blast, the Steel Terra typing. But Mightyena does get Poison Fangs. So, that could be another option. But otherwise, very good build. Definitely solid.
Yeah, so a couple of interesting things with Cayla's build. One thing I really liked was when she mentioned the whole Trick Room thing. And you'll see why later. But yeah, I think it was very smart to go for the obvious weakness against Fairy and have a play against that. And yeah, I think it's a very smart choice to go with Terra Blast as well. Overall, really solid build.
Okay, one thing, the name is absolutely banger. I love it. I'm a big name fanatic with Pokemon. But the build is very interesting as well, because obviously it has Terra type Steel, and he has an advantage to Fairies now, which is really good. And with its moves, I'd say it's a pretty interesting set, because I like to see that in battle for sure. But maybe, obviously, as I said, like they said, Poison Fang is also a good, interesting choice as well for moveset. Maybe with fire types as well, but it is pretty good. Pretty good build, I must say.
I like the build since it has a different touch covered move, Terra Blast helping, and then Spitzy Assault Vest. Surviving against special attacker, which is pretty good.
I also like the fact that she was thinking about using Trick Room as part of the strategy for it with its Brave Nature. As someone who also likes using Trick Room every now and then, I feel like that was really good. The Terra typing of Steel, definitely another thing I was not expecting as well. And then of course accompanied with the Terra Blast, I really like that idea. Yeah, and then another Assault Vest. I can see it definitely needs something more for its special defense, right? So the Assault Vest will definitely help out with its survivability.
I have to say that the Terra Steel type is a nice touch, because not only can Steel does resist Bug, which is going to be another big issue against Mightyena. So, you've got that along with the Fairy typing. So 2 out of your 3 isn't bad. You get that boosted resistances between other types as well. So it kind of does keep your Mightyena in there for a bit longer of a haul without having to worry too much about the defenses. Really like this build. I think you definitely on track on something nasty.
I think the only fighting type mons you would have to worry about in Trick Room would probably be Iron Hands. Maybe Conkeldurr.
Iron Hands. That was my exact fear. Yeah, Iron Hands. I'm like, Iron Hand comes in, Mightyena comes out.
So my Mightyena is named Padfoot. If anyone already knows the reference, then you'll realize that this definitely takes its trick serious. If communication is the key to victory in the battlefield, then this Mightyena really plans to take that clef key away from the opponent. With moves like Taunt, Swagger, it can definitely disrupt the strategies that they're trying to build. Sucker Punch takes full advantage of Taunt, being boosted with its own 128 EVs in attack and an adamant nature. So it's hitting pretty hard for those turns. And even after those turns, if it chose to go the Swagger route, leaving the opponent confused with the option of either taking damage themselves, even with the attempt to attack and take a Sucker Punch, we have Foul Play coming through that's going to really play off of their built-up attack. Overall, I really think that this thing's best for going after special attackers and set up physical sweepers, and just as the little bit of insurance in case it takes a hit because of that speed that Cayla mentioned, I left a Focus Sash on it, so that way it leaves some sort of progress left on the opponent so that you have a safer pivot.
I really like the use of Focus Sash. I know when I was figuring out my build, I was going back and forth between Focus Sash and Assault Vest, and I still in my head am not sure. I'm like, oh, maybe I should use a Focus Sash. I don't know. So I'm glad you called attention to that item.
The Focus Sash to me was the second best option to it being able to get the Prankster ability.
I was a little bit happy to hear about using Taunt and Swagger in the build and like having that Focus Sash, because it's like if it's gonna possibly go down to like a hit, at least it'll be able to survive with that sash and then probably get off like a Taunt or a Swagger. In this case, I'm favoring Taunt more just because of like I have recently watching the world's competition. There's like all these Iron Hands that are running around. They're always using the Swords Dance. You don't want that. So I think having that Taunt was definitely a nice touch.
It's a foul play for sure.
Yeah, so I have the similar thoughts with Taunt and Swagger. I do like the idea of the Folk Sash, and I think it's a really well thought out build. Like X said, to prep the physical sweepers, I think it's a really, really, really good build, and yeah, I really liked it.
Taunt, Swagger, and Sash. Again, disgusting combo. I really like how those three will work together, and I like how you thought about sort of more towards the end of Mightyena's run.
Oh yeah, I like the mixed Swagger plus foul play, you know, to make sure that I can take down any Pokemon his fault they may have that are resistant to Dark type move.
Again, the names are always banger. This is an awesome name. I know Padfoot is a cool name. If you don't know where it comes from, go and find out. And yes, the Focus Sash is a very interesting choice. A really good build, a very good build indeed.
I really love kind of a control Pokemon, and you've built one out of something so vicious. You've locked down your opponent into swinging harder. You've got foul play to use their own strength against them, and because you know they're going to be swinging, Sucker Punch for that priority. Which, honestly, that's genius. That is flat out genius level right there.
I don't even know if I got to mention it in the whole spiel of me sharing the build, but you got to combine that with the Moxie ability that's on there as well.
That's the fact that you're basically baiting them and locking them into a specific move that you know you're going to be able to counter is just choice. I like it.
So the way how I build my Mightyena is I put the Timid Nature because I want it to be fast, so I put max EV into speed and do special attack and a 4 to HP. I put Life Orb because I wanted him to have more attack, and then the ability Intimidate because that's the only ability that probably would fit with this build. And then for the move I went with was Hyper Force, Dark Pulse, Terra Blast, and Shadow Ball for coverage. And then the Terra typing is Fairy.
So wait, so it's a special attack Mightyena?
Yes.
Fascinating. I would never in a million years have expected a special attack Mightyena, and that means that your opponents won't expect it either. So it would be very interesting to see what people would do when they see that, like, because they're probably going to put in something that is defensive, not special defensive. So that would be cool.
I really like the special attacking Mightyena idea. Very nice, very nice. Also, the Terra typing on Fairy as well. I think that was also a very nice touch to add on to it too. Because I think Fairy, like, defensively is also not a bad choice. The fact that you have like Hyper Voice on there to, like, if I remember correctly, it hits both opponents in 2v2 settings, right? Dark Pulse is good because it does have the possibility to flinch, and then Terra Blast Fairy. Well, I mean, that's a lot of damage. And of course, against fighting types. I think you said you had Intimidate on as well, so you know, never can go wrong with Intimidate as the ability. So.
And then the reason why I chose to go with Fairy type is to cover Pokemon like Iron Hands, since it's mostly common use.
I think Cayla said it best in the fact of you will 99% of the time catch your opponent off guard as soon as they see Mightyena, and it's like, oh, okay, well, here comes an attacker, and then it's like, hey, surprise, I'm a special attacker, sucks for you. I thought it was really cool to see that, and then the Life Orb giving it a little extra oomph into that special attack. Yeah, overall, and then the Fairy Terra typing is also something that will catch many people off guard, I think. So really, really interesting build overall.
Yeah, again, I think there's an echo in here because bringing in a special Mightyena is definitely not something that I think anyone will predict. Hyper Voice, love it. Dark Pulse, even better. It's just overall for a special Mightyena, it just works so well.
Yeah, that is interesting. I don't often see Dark Pulse in Pokemon anymore. Using that move is an interesting choice for Mightyena as well. Is it just called Mightyena, the name?
No, there's no nickname.
Okay. So that makes it even special, I guess. So yeah, that's interesting, and also it'll definitely give your opponents like the mishap that it's just some regular Mightyena and actually is a special attacker, which is interesting as well.
I love the fact that everyone with a Mightyena is expecting this absolute vicious wolf, but what we actually get with this build is a vicious sheep in wolf's clothing. I'd really be interested to see this Terra Fairy go against Cayla's Terra Steel combo, just to kind of see, because it feels like taking almost the same approach to two different problems. So I really think that was commendable and an interesting way of going about using the Terra Blast. And also, I love the Hyper Voice because Howl's not that great of a move competitively, and Hyper Voice still fits the whole character of the wolf howling at the moon, except for this time it's doing it through your face.
I have to say one thing. I like that metaphor that you said, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Exactly what it is.
It's a sheep in wolf's clothing, a vicious sheep.
I think the fact that you definitely taking a position that no one sees coming, and I mean, stat-wise, doesn't look good on paper, but I think that's what makes this particular build shine, because of the fact that, yeah, you've got that special aspect and it might be weak, but you're going to catch your opponent so unprepared, and to top that off, they don't know what you're packing.
Giggity.
They might leave him in there going, oh, that's the only special attack they've got, and then nope, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. I really, really like it.
So this Mightyena, its nickname is Toko, but for this build, I kind of wanted to use its ability Quick Feet. So like I was trying to think of like how to go about it. This is what I came up with. I gave it Adamant Nature, putting the max stats in attack. I put about 80 points into special defense just to make it on par with the defense, and then I just put everything else in speed. Terra typing, just like Ryu, I also went with Fairy. And for the moves, I put Terra Blast, Crunch, Lash Out, and Protect. The item to proc the Quick Feet ability, I ended up putting Toxic Orb. The whole process was like, I'll use Protect on the first turn it comes out, so it gets this poison status condition, activating Quick Feet. Terra Blast Fairy for obvious reasons, for coverage against fighting types, and hopefully for any dragon types that do end up coming out. Crunch for a little bit more stab, and also the possibility to lower defense. And then Lash Out with the Intimidates running around and the possible other status lowering stuff, then I can dish out even more damage with Lash Out.
I love that you went with a different ability. I was wondering, because that ability is really interesting, and it's so cool to see it being used. I wonder if you should put Facade onto it, because the power doubles if the user is burned, poisoned, or paralyzed, and it does 70 damage, so that's 140. Plus, with that ability, like, I just feel like, I don't know, it's gonna hit.
Oh, I totally forgot about Facade. Oh, man.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I was like, wait a minute. Like, what if you did this? That'd be crazy.
How did you forget about Mr. Larry?
But yeah, I think it's a really interesting build. Same thing as Cayla said with the ability. You know, I love to see when you take a different direction into what people will expect build to be, and that's the reason why I love these segments, because we really get a chance to think out of that tight box of competitive play of like, oh, you have to do this cookie cutter or cut and dry kind of thing. Lash Out is a very interesting choice because, like Guren said, the probability of, seeing Intimidate, seeing those stat decreasers, it's just a good option to have just for that type of coverage. So really good.
I wouldn't have expected Lash Out, although I do think it is a very good move. I don't know what I can add to what the others have said. I think it's a really solid build overall. I do really enjoy it. I might have to give it a try.
Yeah, I like how Guren went with the ability Quick Feet and then with the Toxic All item, using the Terra Blast cover with the Fairy type move, which is pretty good. And then with Crunch, Lash Out is you go against an intimidating user, which can be pretty good though.
Yeah, interesting name. I have to check him out, the YouTuber, and Yeah, Lash Out is an interesting move indeed for Mightyena. I've never seen it on the Mightyena before, but it does sound like a good build indeed, I must say.
So Lash Out's always been an interesting move, and I know a lot of the other podcasters have actually touched on this already, but I've always found it to be a very difficult thing to really predict or tell for the full efficient use of that move. Of this build, I actually really like the Quick Feet and Toxic Orb combo, and like Cayla mentioned, I would have definitely threw Facade on there. It was one of the directions that I thought about going before I landed on the whole Padfoot thing. Overall, I think it's going to keep your opponent guessing very much because they're going to expect more of just that direct, raw ferociousness for Mightyena, and that's the same reason I went with more of a trick build, and this is going to do very similar to that.
I've got to agree. The Quick Feet, I was playing with it, but I totally missed the Facade, so you're not alone on that one, Guren, because I think I would have actually done that had I caught it. So good catch, Cayla, because, man, that one, I am that Superman meme where the joke goes over the head. That build went right over my head. I totally missed it. And I definitely, I'm always iffy with the Toxic Orb because of the damage that you do start to take. But if you're basically one-shot hitting things or even close to it, I think the trade-off is worth it. So yeah, I definitely like the build. It was good.
My Mightyena is called Big Borky Boy Bjork.
I beg your pardon?
Big Borky Boy Bjork, and she is absolutely beautiful because she's shiny. So let's start off with a couple of things. I'm glad that Cayla mentioned Trick Room because my Mightyena is specifically built for a Trick Room build. It has the item Room Service, the ability Moxie. Its stats are focused on attack, and it is a little bit of a split between defense and special attack. So I've got 156 special attack, 76 in defense, 20 in HP, with a Brave Nature to up its attack, lower its speed. So its speed is absolutely deplorable, which is exactly what you want. And basically, the point is to use the Trick Room. Room Service will go ahead and lower its speed stage by 1, which will effectively double Lash Out's move power. So yeah, that's my thing. I also used Lash Out in this build. Its other attacks are going to be Yawn, Facade, and Assurance.
I think the use of Room Service is genius. And then combining that with Lash Out, I just feel like my brain is melting, but in a good way.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I totally gotta agree with the Room Service and Trick Room thing. It's something like I don't see a lot of, which is really nice because Room Service does seem like a really good item to use in Trick Room because of what it does, and then the fact that you have moves like Assurance, and then you also running the Lash Out. That's great. What was your Terra typing again?
Oh yeah, actually I forgot to mention that Terra type is Poison.
Oh, Poison. Okay. Definitely different. I like that.
I do like how you 4-win speed for your Trick Room. Yep, you can definitely tell that you and Draco are related because you two, sir, are an evil genius.
Thanks.
Yeah, I like how Jay went a different way with his Terra type Poison. And then with the movie setup or with the Trick Room, it can be pretty good. And then
Yeah, the name. What's it called again?
Big Borky Boy Bjork.
Big Borky Boy Bjork. Yeah,
Yes,
okay. Okay, that is an interesting name. And this Mightyena is, I would say, a very deceiving Mightyena, because basically when you enter it in the battle, you put your opponent to sleep, you're basically going to poison it, and you're basically going to trap it, literally right there. And it's going to be an absolute hassle for the opponent to try and get it to attack. It's going to be an interesting fight, I must say. I have to say about that.
I'm just still trying to process that name. Yorkie Boy, Bjork, Worky Koi, Tricky Room, Service, Lashy Out, Torquey, Pivot, Assurance after Tricky Roomy?
Right.
Is that
Because
12
I feel like
characters?
the dog is the Swedish chef incarnate right now. But to translate what I just went over, the Trick Room and Room Service is interesting. I like that you're working it with the Lash Out, which is absolutely genius. The only caveat is I feel like that only happens once in that whole situation. And if there was a way that you could cause that to be more or cyclical, would be very interesting. But having the assurance that it'll work for that insurance in case somebody does have that lower speed, and you can use that against them in the Trick Room. Otherwise, it works very well to get that attack boost outside of the Trick Room. Either way, yeah, Forky to the Borky, big boy Borky.
I'm glad that you said that because, again, this being for a Trick Room build, it would have to have that partner Pokemon to set up Trick Room, but also maybe use a move to continue with the stat decreases, not on opposing Pokemons, but on the Mightyena, so it could continue to use Lash Out. I haven't thought about the partner Pokemon yet, but I like where you're getting at with the, keeping it cyclical like that.
I'd really suggest Diplin with the Syrup Bomb.
Ooh.
Returns consecutively giving you 4 overall in terms of hitting with Lash Out at that boost.
Interesting. I like that.
That's actually a really good
Swedish Chef
combo.
serving up the candy apple.
I was always of the concern of whenever you self-stat drop, most moves will basically just ignore the fact that you've done that and will not proc. But Lash Out doesn't seem to have that clause in its description. So I think it's definitely a genius move that it gives you that one good solid hit, which proc your Moxie, which makes all of your other physical attacks that much more dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely approve of that. But yeah, no, this is actually pretty awesome. I do like this. Time for my Mightyena, which I have nicknamed Moxyena. Gee, I wonder where I'm going with this one. So, my Mightyena has the ability Moxie, of course. And the moves I gave it were Poison Fang, because it's actually one of the few Pokemon that get it. Psychic Fangs, Crunch for stab, and Swagger. And the item I gave it was the Mirror Herb.
Ooh. Ooh.
You see where I went with?
That's interesting. Ooh. I like that.
So effectively, I swagger my opponent, they get a +2 attack, I get a +2 attack. Next turn, sweep. I put all of my EVs into attack and speed, and I gave it a Jolly Nature to push that speed just a little bit further. And it actually gets respectable at that point. It's about 134 at level 50. And so that is my build.
I feel like it's just so fascinating, the different items that could be used now. Like, there've just been so many items added recently, like in the past few generations, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's that. Like, I didn't even think of Mirror Herb, but that's amazing.
Yep, Mirror Herb thing with the Swagger, I think that's a very nice tech choice. Like, especially if you're using it on like a special attacker, it's like they don't benefit from getting their attack raised, but I do. And then, like, what was it? Cayla mentioned it earlier. Definitely, using this mon and giving it like all the bite moves, just bite. Poison Fang, chance to poison, Psychic Fangs. Like X also mentioned earlier, I think it is a very staple move in this podcast group. And then I think you said Crunch, right? For extra stab and of course lowering the defense more. Then partner that up with Moxie. Well, it's a lot of damage coming the opponent's way.
Okay, well you heard my reaction. My question is, what is its Terra type?
Dark. I'm keeping it dark.
Okay, wow. Super stab. Alright, so here's my thought, right? I don't know if anyone here, has anyone seen that Swagger Mirror Herb play in competitive? Or anywhere for that matter?
The one-time use of the Mirror Herb is what made me reconsider the item.
Right. So here's my thing. I feel, because we're on Mightyena, honestly, genius level thinking, and I feel like I want to see what Pokemon can benefit the most off of something like that.
Opportunist Sparta
Say what?
with Mirror Herb and Swagger. I've done it.
Nice. Madman. You absolute madman. I feel like this is something that's we'll be seeing very soon within competitive play, because I think it's such a genuinely great idea. And I feel like there's some Pokemon that are gonna absolutely go nuts with that combo. Everything else is great. I just feel like that swagger mirror herb play is just nuts. Honestly, you benefit. It's just a double benefit. You get the boost as well, and then you confuse your opponent. It's honestly a win-win. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, Mirror Herb, I definitely didn't think about that. And then the combination with Swagger is, again, disgusting, but I'm here for it. I really like that. Yeah, again, just another solid build. I like that you're keeping a dark type, but yeah, not much more I can say. I really like the build.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. Fast Mightyena you have there, and then getting the coverage for it, and then with the dark type Terra will help with boost the stab move, which is pretty good overall. And then using the Mirror Herb as genius paired with the Swagger.
Again, with these names are absolutely fantastic, but there is one small problem with the name. It might accidentally give away its ability to the opponent, which will obviously think that this Mightyena will have Moxie and will actually predict what you're going to do with it. But besides that, a really decent build though, I must say. Swagger, of course, is a good option for a move on this part of this build, I must say.
Draco loves giving away the strategy that he's using with the name of his Pokemon. We've touched on this in another episode. But moving away from that, the Poison and Psychic Fang combination offers great coverage for this Pokemon. And in my mind, it really has me bringing up the argument of Monkey Dory wants its significance back. The Swagger and Mirror Herb, like I mentioned in response to Jay's thoughts, the one-time use thing really was sort of a crippling thing, but I really do see what you're doing by pairing it with Moxie, which becomes your boost engine after the fact. So that's actually kind of an interesting way of covering it that I didn't notice upon first hearing the build, and that's absolutely genius. Crunch is there because I think it's just sort of mandatory for this.
Yeah, the whole thing with the mirror is the fact that it's the spark you need, because once you get going with that, forget it. If it's not gonna cripple my opponent's HP, it's gonna take them out. And the longer Mightyena's in the fight, the better it's gonna happen. And that's why I wanted to dump everything into speed and make sure that I go first. If I'm getting that boost, I want to be able to use it and capitalize on it. And giving the coverage with the Psychic and the Poison typing, I think, really is where it shines, especially with the fact that it does have those bite moves. Like, it's so rare to find a Pokemon that can cover all its weaknesses in one shot. And with that, brings our episode to a close. Let us know what you think about our builds. How did we do? What would you do for your build? Let us know down below. And I want to say thank you to Cayla for joining us, as well as Jay from the passenger seat, X, the Last Champion Spirit, and Subarashi. Be sure to share, like, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing down below. And as always, have a wonderful day. Bye!
See you later, guys.
Ciao.
Port.
Peace out.
McDonald had a farm.
Bye, everybody.